$380,000 after insurance or after taxes, everything, 160, 100,000, whatever. I'm gonna go and blow it on this, this, and this, and not think about next year. Well, what if you get hurt or you get cut next year and no other team picks you up?
Yep.
Then what are you gonna do? And you might have $5,000, $10,000 in the bank.
That's it. And then the thing about athletes, right, is one of the biggest statistics that I preach, right, is that on average, it takes 3.5 years for an athlete to rebrand themselves, right? And a lot of the media always talks about, oh, athletes are so stupid and they blow their money. They're not stupid.
Yeah.
They just don't know, because for the first 25, 28, 30 years of their life, they were ridiculously good and in 1 percentile of one of their tasks.
Yeah.
Right? So, like, am I stupid because I don't know how to unclog a toilet?
No.
I'm not stupid because I don't know how to, how to do my taxes. No one calls me stupid, right? But the moment an athlete messes up or, does something, oh, he's so stupid.
Labeled stupid, yeah.
So he's not stupid. They just don't know, right? And they're not being taught. And, that's a negative thing about the athletes, the picture that media paints it.
Yeah.
And they don't talk about, all the good things athlete does, right? Because that doesn't create clicks, right?
Exactly.
It doesn't. No one cares that Nolan Carroll has a nice house and has a podcast and doesn't really have to work. You know what sells? Nolan Carroll's broke.
Yeah.
What an idiot.
Exactly.
Made $20 million.
Everybody just finger
pointing look
how
at
he
that.
messed up.
Only if I was like Nolan Carroll, right? Like, only if I could make that money, I could do so much with it, right?
They say that after the fact.
But an athlete needs 3.5 years, because in that 3.5 years, they stop, they close their book on playing sports, or basketball, football, baseball, hockey, whatever, golf, right? And they start figuring out what they like, what they're good at, right? Because I did this while you were playing sports, while you were playing for the Miami Dolphins.
Yeah.
I was doing that in my 20s, right? I went to college, I had different internships. You didn't have internships in college because you were playing on Saturdays, right? I took one job. I didn't like it. I took another job. I didn't like it. I took a fourth job. I had 15 jobs before I was 30, right? I tried different things. Athletes can't do that. So what they do is that they have to figure out fast. And on average, that time frame is 3.5 years. The problem with that 3.5 years is that while you're figuring things out, life doesn't just stop, right?
Yeah.
You have bills.
Yeah.
You have kids.
Yeah.
You have... shit happens, like house burns down or car breaks down or your parents die or your wife leaves you, right?
Or you might have to get surgery or something.
You
Anything
need
you gotta
money.
pay for. Yeah.
So a lot of times athletes don't go broke because they're stupid.
Yeah.
A lot of times athletes go broke because it takes 3, 4, 5 years to take the next steps in life.
Yeah.
And while they're figuring out those next steps in life, they're spending money that they've accumulated while they're playing.
Yeah.
And if not every athlete accumulated 10, 15, $20 million. A lot of these guys made $2, $3, $4, $5 million.
If that.
If that, pocketed 2, 3, they left with 500 to $1 million, and that's supposed to last them their whole life, because that's what average Bob wants to say.
There's no way.
Right.
Yeah, and it's funny because I think it was my second or third year, there was a corner, I don't want to say his name, but he said that exact same thing. He was going through all the math and we were getting ready to go out to practice. He was telling me that if I can save or get $6 million, I'm set for the rest of my life. And I was thinking, well, you got 4 kids, you got a wife, you live in California. That's not gonna last you maybe 3 years, if that, because your kids get older, your kids start getting
27?
into... No,
Okay,
31.
Okay.
I
think. We'll talk after.
He was there for like a couple of years, but when I started thinking about it, and then when I went to Philly and I got my contract, I was like, well, I just have a kid. I'm renting a property in Philly that I don't own. I have a house down here, not this house, but then I bought my dad a car. I have my sister, she's going to school, so I'm helping her with her stuff. And I'm just thinking of the next 4 or 5 years out. I'm like, man, how can he say that he can live off of this when me, myself, getting a $5 million contract, just looking at it, if I were to continue, there's no way I'd be able to sustain 2 houses, help everybody in my family, and still live the life I want to live.
Yep.
So then I started thinking about, what do I want that 5-year plan to kind of look like? And it was just more about precautions and what I needed to do, where I needed to put money, guys, we were talking about before, guys do not think that way. They only think in the moment. And it comes back to, I don't know if it's just the glitz and glamour, the what people want them to see, but it's so crazy because you bring up that athletes, they tell them, or they point the finger, oh, this guy went broke doing such and such, but at the same time, they want to see these athletes dress well for game day. They want to see what their lifestyle is outside of football, what their interests are. They want to see those things, but then they blame them because they go broke or they make the wrong decisions or wrong investments, and they're not guided. So what would your advice be? Because you've been on both sides. You've been on the agent side, and I knew you when you were doing that.
Yep.
So you were around guys. You saw what the lifestyle was, how guys like to party, go out, do trips, and then you went on the other side of it, insurance, how to protect yourself. What is the advice you can tell a guy to keep in the back of his mind to let him know that, look, you know football's not going to last forever, but don't get caught up in the lifestyle of how it is. Protect yourself so you can have peace of mind to go out and play as well as you can play. And then when you're done with the game, at least you can come out and just say, I did everything I needed to do for however long I played, whether it's 3 years, 5 years, 10, 15, and now I'm good.
Educate, right? So everything is educate and everything. So I will always tell guys, become friends with guys who are ending their careers. Because I've learned that the guys at the end of their careers, they see the end and they've dealt with the bullshit, the cutting, the trading, the signing new deals, moving, families, right? Seeing guys go broke and befriends the older players, because the older players that care they want to help you. They do. People want to help if you want to be helped, right? And that's the only thing advice I can give you, because there's no advice. There's sadly, you know how like back in when there's king and queens, right? And an old king dies, and you know, a new young king who's only 10 years old has to become the king now, right? And he's got to wear the big boy pants like this. Well, no one cares. The poor farmer doesn't care that the king is only 10 years old. That's his king, right? An athlete has to look at it like that. It doesn't matter that you're 20. You're now responsible. And an athlete, the biggest thing that I always tell anybody I talk to in sports is that you have to treat being an athlete as a business. Because, and I'll use you for example, like your body of work was generating $3-4 million a year. There are successful businesses that people would kill for to have to generate that kind of money. And you treat yourself as, you got PR, you got marketing, right? Your body is your business, right? And that's where, you know, the insurance ties into protecting your business, to protecting your ability to make money, right? And if you have a gas station, right? You want your gas station to pump gas. If you have a restaurant, you want your restaurant to serve food, right? The kitchen has to work, right? So as an athlete, you are a multi-million-dollar business that in order for you to get paid, your body, your kitchen, your motor has to work. That's all it is. It's simple. And it's just, you know, there's so much media now. Like, you know, when you were playing and I was on an agency side, social media and information wasn't that accessible. Like, it just wasn't. Like, this has evolved in the last 10 years. I was just telling my girlfriend that I was explaining to her how MapQuest used to work, right? I'm like you'd go and print out MapQuest, and then you hope that you did the right directions, because you can't re-Google it. You print it out, and it was 10 years ago. This wasn't like 30. It was in 2008. I remember living in LA before living here, and I was in sales, and I would print out MapQuest. It's 12 years ago. Like, that was like
before you left your house, it had to be printed out.
And if Nolan gave me Boulevard instead of Street, and now I'm stuck somewhere in Plantation, I can't re-Google. I have to call you. By the way, I call you from a payphone. And I'm like, Nolan, I can't find your house. And you're like, dude, you know, I actually gave you the wrong. It's actually 871, etc. Right? And so things like you just have to learn, and you have to adapt, and you go do it. That's it. And you have to protect your business. And I got you. So there's so much information out, right? LeBron comes out and goes, Russell Wilson, I spent $1 million on my body. Not everybody can spend $1 million, but you understand, like, what comes out is like, my body is how I make my money. LeBron's been playing for 20 years, right? And that's how he's able to last 20 years, because he spends so much on his money. He's reinvesting in your money. He's reinvesting in his business, because the longer he played, the better the brand is, right?
Stronger, I guess.
The stronger the brand is, right? The longer you can play, Udonis Haslem keeps signing for these minimum wage deals, right? Like, the guy's a god in Miami.
Yeah.
The guy hasn't played in a basketball game in 5 years, I think.
Probably. He just is, well, he's a good coach. That's the thing about it. And that's what they signed him for.
But they signed him as a player.
Yeah.
And he keeps making the brand, and now everybody sees Udonis Haslem on equal level as Dwayne Wade. They were, if you look up their numbers,
Nowhere close.
he was a role player.
Yeah.
But because he stayed in Miami for 18 years,
Mm-hmm.
he now is on the same level as Jason Taylor, Dwayne Wade,
That's true.
Udonis Haslem.
That's definitely
right?
true. Yeah.
It's all brand. So you want to reinvest in your body because your body is how you make the money.
Yeah.
That's all it is.
And that's a good thing that you brought up. And for those of people that don't know, Conversations with Carroll, we're here. I didn't get to do the introduction. So we just started talking, which is good.
I feel like we're talking. They're all kind of got
We are. They just started going. But I just want to welcome everybody to Conversation with Carroll. I'm here with Eugene Dorfman, who is the president of Pro Player Insurance. He's somebody that I've known for, once I got into the league, I met you.
What year was that?
2010.
10, yeah. I just
you
got
just
to
had started, yeah. And I remember just be here and there. I would see you, I'd be around you, either at Dolphins games. I see you around players, but I've seen agents that are around players that just want to hang out and party and show them the glitz and glamour life. And then there would be times I'd be around you, well, when you were with David, and we just talk. But it would be more knowledgeable stuff. It'd be information about what you need to look out for, what you need to be aware of, how you view your career to go. And for me, that was inspiring because that's when I started really looking at my career in a different way instead of just, oh, I need to get on the field, I just need to play, I just need to make my money so I can buy the cars, I can get the clothes, I can do all these material things. But the more I started progressing each year and the more I was exposed to different people, the more I began to see my career as something that I need to sustain, like you said. It needs to be a brand, and it needs to be something that at the end of the day is strong. So for the people that don't know you, you now do insurance. You were on the agent side for how long?
On and off since probably I moved here to work for a sports agent, and so on and off from 08 to probably 15.
Okay, and then after that you got into insurance.
I got into insurance, and I got fired in 17 from the insurance company. So and I think a lot of times you need that oomph in your life, right? Because I don't think I've ever would make the push because I was making good money. I was living a life, I don't have kids, I don't have family, right? And I was living in a high rise in Miami. I had my BMW. I buy nice clothes. I go out when I need to nice restaurants. So life was good, right? And I still part-time with the athlete side, right? And it was great. I got fired, and I got fired January 11th, 2017. And it was like a shock. I've never been fired before. So I always recruited my whole life since college. Everybody always recruited me to come to work for their place, right? And I got fired, and I was like, what the hell just happened? And it was resonating with me so much. Like I was so disgusted. Like I'm like, man, I'm 33. And I didn't want what happened to me today happen to me when I was 53, right? Yeah. Because you're not as mobile, right? Older on. And I realized, I'm like, I never want to be fired again. Yeah. And I've interviewed with different companies and nothing felt right. I got 6 job offers. And I was unemployed from January until March, right? And I had some money saved, so I didn't collect unemployment because it was arrogant. My ego didn't allow me to do that, right? Which I wish I did. Now, it's free money. Who cares, right? Yeah. And I decided to take all the skills that I had, which is being around NFL players primarily at that point, right? So I have NBA clients now, MLB clients, entertainers, but NFL players. I knew insurance. I knew I'm always good with people. I've always been a good people person, right? I got most talkative in my high school. Always been friendly. And I put it all together more or less in a blender, right? And when I blend it all in together, I said, I know how a sports agency works. I know insurance. If I can take insurance and move like a sports agent, I think I can be somewhat successful. Now, this was just an idea in my head, right? And a lot of people actually call me an idiot. They're like, what? Like, there's no insurance, professional insurance for athletes, right? There's a few. There's like, I think a guy in New York, there's a guy in Cali, but there's 800 agents just in NFL, right? There's thousands of financial advisors. I think there's like 20 on Las Olas, right? Yeah. And I decided, I said, I want to be able to, I didn't want to sell like suits, right? Because I didn't want something that not needed, right? I want to be needed.
Yeah.
And I wanted also, what I didn't like about working as an agent is that the relationship kind of sort of ends once player stops playing, right? Now, you're friendly with all your players after, but the relationship kind of fizzles out just a little bit, right? And I wanted the longevity of the relationship. I wanted to be involved, and I wanted to help. I truly wanted to help, right? And the reason for that is because I resonate myself a lot with athletes because I grew up dirt poor. I'm a Jewish immigrant from Russia. My parents came with nothing. My dad delivered pizzas for the first 3 years. My mom works in daycare, right? And I grew up dirt poor where, like, I remember trying out for wrestling, and they're like, you need wrestling, like, cleats or whatever in 7th grade.
Shoes,
and I came up in Chuck Taylors. That's the only shoes I had, right? And they're like, oh, the Russian kid, like, we need wrestling shoes. You can't be on the mat. And I was like, well, I can't wrestle because my parents can't buy me $40 wrestling shoes, right? So I wanted to help athletes. Because a lot of athletes, 80, 90% of an athlete comes from a poor family, not knowing financial and just business of life, right? And I kind of put all the ideas together in a blender, came up with, doing insurance for athletes. And that has evolved now with hard work and persistency and doing right things, and that evolved into a real company that I have clients in football and basketball, baseball, entertainment, and I'm advising now on all sorts of insurance, right? So from life insurance to disability insurance to loss of value insurance, we'll touch back on that later on, to home, auto, umbrella, jewelry, right, protecting. And what I've kind of came up with is the guy that protects young athlete that has a lot of money, that needs to protect the way he earns that money and everything that he gained materialistically from playing. Right, and that's kind of where I'm at now.
That's pretty good, especially, and I want to go back to when you were in the agent life and some of the things that other people don't see, society doesn't see on the outside, but you got a chance to see it firsthand. What were some of the downfalls that you continually saw? And we always hear about a player going broke or doing something wrong, but what were the actual things that you saw players doing that contributed to those things that people always just see as the end result of a player, misusing his whole fortune that he's worked so hard to obtain?
It's, I think, something I see now in disability insurance is I think that guys don't think that this is ever going to end. And the reason why they don't think that is because it actually never ended for them in their life. Right? So if you think about it, you were a great peewee football player, right?
Actually, I didn't play peewee.
You didn't?
No.
Most of the guys
Most
were,
guys,
right?
yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
Then they were incredible high school athlete, right? Incredible.
Yeah.
Everybody wanted them. Colleges were coming in. Like, if you made it to the NFL, you had
Yeah,
multiple offers from college. Then you go to college, and on that team, you're probably the best, right? The elite, everybody wanted a piece of you, everyone to talk to you, everybody recruited you, everyone at events, right? Then you're NFL, and now you're representing one of the 32 cities, major markets. There's almost a national holiday named after football for Super Bowl, right? You playing from 60,000 people. As long as you play for the team, everybody wants you at their events, etc., right? You just, as an athlete, people don't think that is ever going to end. And then when it ends so abruptly. And then no one cares, right? Like,
that's true.
No one cares. And even there's a high statistic that 85% of athletes get divorced after playing. This is crazy, right? And I was trying to figure out why that happens. And I think that happens because the woman they marry one guy, and when the guy finishes playing, that's a completely different person. And you're that person for the next 60 years, right? And that changes, right? As a woman that's get married to a guy that's one way, right? And when they finish playing, they're different. And I think that a lot of athletes, their biggest obstacle to overcome is understanding that this is going to end sometime. And the ones that are most successful post-career that I've talked to are the ones that are like, yo, this has ended, great. What's my next chapter? What's next? And the ones that know that this is going to end while they're playing. The ones that I find that are successful mentally and happy and have moved on to different ventures are the ones that are doing stuff while they're playing to make sure that their post-career is successful. And they're not like blinking, you know, the career end and they're like, what do I do now?
Yeah.
And what skills do I have? Because
Yeah.
now you remember, like when you finish playing, you're 30 years old.
Yeah. It's like
You're
a brand
a
new
young
life.
person. Like if you wanted to be a doctor, you wouldn't even be a doctor yet because you'd be finishing up your residency.
Yeah.
Right? If you want to be an attorney, you're just finishing up your, you know, first few years of legal practice.
Yeah.
Right? Like most athletes finish playing and now they got to figure out their life out and they got to find stuff to do. Most of them actually need to make a living.
Yeah.
Right? You got to be happy. You got to find happiness, right? You got to find that cheese, right?
Yeah.
And you need to figure out what you like,
Yeah.
right? And all of that has to happen while you're playing.
But I think that's hard because for so long, and I remember Tom Brady was the one that said this first, that I have no plan B, just plan A. And I think guys mix that up a little bit because Tom Brady's set. He's got all these things that are just for him. He's good.
His wife makes more than him.
Yeah, exactly.
He's
He's fine regardless. But I think guys mix that up because they think plan A is just football. I don't need to think about plan B at all because plan B does not matter. I'm in the trap of I'm playing football. I've been playing it for 15, 16 years. This is all I need to focus on. This is all I need to do because then I can start doing all these other things. But you're saying have that in the back of your mind now and be prepared for it, not for expecting it to happen, but knowing when it does happen, you're set. And I don't think enough guys keep that in their mind because they're so scared that, well, if I have a plan B, I'm taking away from my plan A. And that's what scares guys, and I think that's what gets them sort of in the trap. And now you've transitioned from the agent side to the insurance side, and you've protected a lot of guys. I saw it. You tweeted you had $100 million worth of just insurance that you've accumulated from just various athletes. So you were able to see $100
million insured.
In insurance, I mean insured players. You have seen, in a sense, you look down the road as far as what a player needs, and we talked about it a little bit outside, was the different types of insurance that guys don't even think about, and I didn't even know about until you told me, with families, with friends with disabilities, the different types of insurance. And we had talked that if a guy's coming on his contract year, and I did it 3 different times, and the first time I did it and I was presented with insurance, I was thinking, I don't need this because
you're not going to get hurt.
That's what I was thinking the whole time.
I have guys tell me, Eugene, I'm not going to get hurt.
Yeah, and they look at, and we were talking about numbers. I paid $20,000 for a $2 million insurance my last year in Miami. And when I paid that, I was just like, man, why am I paying this? Because I'm not going to get hurt. But then I'm looking at the other side, well, shoot, I can get my dad this car, or I can buy these clothes, or I can go out to this club. That's what I want to use my money for. But when I had to sit down and think about the longevity of my career and how I want it to be, this was a step of precaution just in case something did happen. I would have the peace of mind to know that even if next year I don't play, I still have that $2 million that I had as insurance. So for you, being on the insurance side, how can you explain that for not just athletes, but for people in general to protect themselves in the future?
One word, hedge, right? So a lot of times you hear in financial world, right, in stocks and investments and real estate, hedging, hedge your risk, right? Arbitrage, right? Hedging, your insurance is not gonna, put a Band-Aid on a career, right? It's just gonna hedge the risk. So let's use you in your contract year, right? Nolan Carroll was in a contract year, right? You knew that 365 days from today, you were going to get a, call it, $10 million contract, right? You knew the only way you don't get this contract is if you get hurt in the next 16 games. Or you get a car accident, you slip and fall in the shower, your girlfriend gets mad at you and throws a bottle of tequila at you, right? But you knew as long as there's something doesn't happen to your body, you're getting 10 million, right? You're good enough. You've now proven that you're good enough, right? So the only thing you want to do is hedge against the risk.
Yeah.
All insurance, right? People hate the word insurance. I like to use risk, right? What's your risk, right? You know that if you tear your ACL week 1, your risk is not so big because you're going to recover and you're going to be good, ready to go, right?
Yeah.
But what if you tear your ACL weeks 15? What's your risk now? Your risk is not the $20,000 that you spend on insurance policy. Your risk actually is $10 million because that contract is not happening anymore, right?
Yeah.
So the way you have to look at insurance is, I just want to limit my risk, right? I know today I don't have any more contracts in football, right, or basketball, right? In a year from now, I'm going to get $10 million. I just want to protect that little golden nugget, like that, the future. I want to protect that $10 million. I'm not protecting Nolan Carroll's body now. I just know that the only way for me not to get this $10 million is if my body gets injured, hurt, or get diagnosed with a disease like kind of happened with like Chris Bosh, right?
Yeah.
Very weird, right?
Yeah.
And I'm going to use an example that I use a lot because it was very substantial and there are actually numbers behind it. Remember DeMarcus Cousins?
Yeah.
NBA player. In 16 or 17, he was a career year with Pelicans. And in January, on the last end of the season, like he tore his Achilles.
Yeah.
I know he didn't have insurance because I actually threw information. I knew he didn't, right? He then was rehabbing, and he knew, and teams knew that he won't be able to be ready for another year till January. There was no market for him. He was supposed to be a max guy. He was going to get $40 million a year for 4, right? 160, 150, right? He signed for $5 million with Golden State, and they spun it as a prove it deal, right?
Yeah.
It wasn't a prove it deal.
Yeah, he was good enough.
There wasn't any market out there.
Yeah.
Right? Achilles, he never recovered from Achilles, right? Then he signed with the Lakers for $3 million last year, not this year, but last year.
Yeah.
Yep. Then he got released. And you've never heard from DeMarcus Cousins again.
I had no idea.
Okay? DeMarcus Cousins made $8 million. I don't know what he collected. I don't know the incentives, but I know contract-wise 5 and 3, right? Have he had insurance? He wasn't protecting DeMarcus Cousins. He was protecting that $40 million a year.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
And that's all it is. That's all insurance is a hedge. It's don't buy insurance because you just want to say you have insurance. No, I went on the record saying I don't think Dak Prescott really needed insurance because the way his contract was set up, and he was already making $35 million, and the way the language of the loss of value was worded, like I don't think he needed that specific insurance.
Yeah.
Right? And you just want to hedge against the risk of not getting to that goal.
Gotcha.
And your goal, the only thing that stops you from getting to that goal is time.
Yeah.
Right? And what could happen in that time.
Yeah.
That's all it is.
I don't think people look at that enough. And I also wanted to bring up, my mom won't let me say it, which is, I'm pissed. The 8 F's of insurance.
All right, let me pull it up.
She won't let me cuss on here.
I won't. Then I don't want to get in
No,
trouble.
you got free game. You don't have to.
No, because now you said your mom. Now my mom's gonna listen and she's gonna call me and yell
Oh
at me.
man, don't let that happen.
No. So, all right.
Mom,
So
I
we're
listen
gonna-
to you.
Yeah, we're no swearing, so we're gonna use F's, right? But so there's 8 F's, right? And I use that as 8 categories of things that could go wrong.
Yeah.
Right, and so you have disability, right? In case your ability to make money in your current profession gets effed up.
Yeah.
Right, so if you can earn a living doing what you're doing, I want to buy an insurance policy to protect that, because that's, if I can't sell insurance, I want to protect it. So I have a disability policy on my ability to sell insurance.
Yeah.
Right? Loss of value. This is for athletes. If you're in 1 year away from your payday, so loss of value, and I want to clear this air, right? For a lot of people say loss of value, like ESPN talks about loss of value, like it's just, you can buy loss of value, like lossofvalue.com, and you can get it, right? Loss of value is for top tier players who are in the last year of their deal.
Okay.
Meaning, Tua just became a starting quarterback for the Dolphins. He can buy loss of value.
Yeah.
He just can't. He can't get it. He's not in a contract. He'd buy a disability insurance to protect against career-ending injury. He can buy certain body parts insurance, but he can't get a loss of value.
I didn't know you could do that.
Yeah.
Man.
You can buy injury insurance. So like you tear ACL.
Put it on my legs.
Yeah. You tear ACL, no, you can't buy a body part itself. I misworded. You can buy against an injury. So it's called critical injury rider. So on a disability insurance, you can buy that. If you tear your ACL, you get $300,000.
Yeah.
If you're tore your Achilles. But it's the money is not that big, so a lot of times it's hard to justify the cost.
Gotcha.
Life insurance. So this life insurance is important. So I do a lot of life insurance. So the quality of life of your loved ones doesn't get effed up in case you're unexpectedly gone, right? And what I want my clients to ever think when we talk life insurance is, close your eyes, you didn't wake up today. What life do you want for your family, right? If you're like, we're good, don't buy life insurance.
Yeah.
But if you have a 1, 2, 3-year-old kid that you want him to go to Harvard, or you want your wife to maintain a certain lifestyle, right? Buy life insurance to protect your family, because life insurance only works when you're no longer here.
Yeah.
Like you as a human actually won't be able to get the use of what you're going to buy,
Exactly.
right?
Yeah.
Unless you buy cash value life insurance, but that gets complicated. But just very, very basic thinking, right? House, in case your house gets effed up. It's simple. You have your house. You work hard for your house, right? You want to protect your house. I have a client that is a multi-millionaire, not an athlete. He looked at the cost of insurance for his house, and he said, I'm going to self-insure it because I can afford, he did the math, and he's like, insurance was 50, 60K for his house. It's a house on the water, right? He said, look, in 15 years, I can take that money, reinvest it, and then I can buy a new house, right? So I'm going to gamble, and I'm going to say I'm going to self-insure myself, right? But that's a decision you want to make. And I said, it's fine with me, right?
Yeah.
Like, but you make that decision,
Yeah.
right? Umbrella. So umbrella is so important for athletes because contracts are so public now,
Yeah.
right? So anybody can Google your contracts. I can Google what you made in your career to a penny.
Yeah.
So umbrella insurance is a bridge between your house and your auto insurance and your personal bank account.
Okay.
So here's your house and auto insurance. Here's your bank account, right? You do something where somebody hurts in your house, right? I believe right now I slip and fall, right? And I'm like, man, time to make some money, right? I get an attorney, I sue you. Your house has liability insurance, right?
Yeah.
But I really hurt myself, and your liability is only $250,000. I'm gonna need $1 million because this is a $1 million body, right? And I sue you for a personal bank account now.
Yeah.
And now your personal assets are affected by it.
Gotcha.
Umbrella insurance protects you from it's a kind of a gap insurance between your bank account and your liability. So it's called excess liability, right? So you put it on top of your auto insurance and your home insurance, right? So in
So
case
no matter what, they can't come after you.
your personal,
Got
right?
their personal account. they
Very
can't come after
important
you.
because it happens in Florida right now, right? Like somebody hits you, you got an athlete hits you in a G-Wagon, and you're like, oh hell yeah, right?
My neck hurts. My
My
back
neck hurts,
all
right?
that.
I'm going to sue you. Most auto insurance only require $300,000 on the lease, right? So anything after that, if I can show in court that I should get more money,
Yeah.
well, now I'm coming after your personal account, right? You're going to have to pay me somehow, right?
yeah.
So umbrella insurance protects that. And umbrella insurance is so cheap. Like, I think $1 million might be $100 a month. Like,
And athletes ain't trying
an
to pay.
athlete, I tell my guys, like, if you want to work with me, you're buying umbrella. I don't care.
Yeah.
Like, don't work with me then. Because you're not going to get sued, and then some smart guy's going to be like, who's your insurance advisor? Eugene, I can't believe you didn't tell you to get umbrella insurance.
Yeah, I got you.
So boat insurance, in case your boat gets effed up, right? You don't want it sinking, right? But boat insurance, you shouldn't be buying boats. You should just rent them.
Exactly.
And then collectibles, art, and wine. So in case all the unnecessary junk you blow your money on gets effed up, right?
Okay.
Like, I see so many guys. There's an article came out. There's like Le'Veon Bell had like
The jewelry?
the jewelry, right?
That's the worst one. That's the number one for guys is jewelry.
Do you know how cheap jewelry insurance is?
No.
It's
I
ridiculous.
think
It's nothing.
I think it's like $300, $400 from what I saw. Maybe, yeah.
Just buy it.
Yeah. Well, sure. I got my safe and I don't go anywhere, so I'm
But
good
like,
right now.
right? Just insurance is so cheap.
But those guys, they get drunk in the club, the girl steals their jewelry. And you always see it. They steal the jewelry, they leave out, they got them on video in the elevator, and they never get the money back. Or they try and claim double what the actual price of the jewelry is, which most of the time is probably fake anyway. But they end up getting it, or not getting it, based off of the fact that they're getting robbed. But guys don't see, and that's a big one, because guys are targets, like you said, with the umbrella, and that somebody's always trying to look to get something out of them. And that's one thing guys fail to realize. And I had Earl on here, Earl Wolf, a few episodes ago, and he was a target of a burglary. And they didn't know he was a football player until they were in the car and everything. But once they figured that out, they were saying, oh, let's go in your bank account, let's get this, let's get that. And they easily could have just robbed him and left him on the side of the street, and that'd have been it. But guys don't realize that they're constantly always targets, even if, shoot, they could have been done with the game 4 or 5 years later, and they can still be a target just based off the simple fact of, oh, well, let me look up your contract. Yep. What'd you make in 2013? Oh, then you probably, if you made $5 million, you probably still have that $5 million somewhere in your account or something. So those are the things that guys don't, all athletes, even people don't realize in the day-to-day life is just about me. Nothing can happen to me. I'm fine. And then all of a sudden when it happens, it's like, oh, shoot, what do I do next?
There's a saying, it's better to buy insurance 5 years too early than 1 day too late, right? Like, it's, everybody needs insurance when they need it. They're like, oh, I need it.
Yeah.
And I use that for disability insurance for normal people is very interesting because if there's something wrong with you, you can't get disability insurance, right? So like, or an athlete, right? So like, if you don't buy disability insurance and you hurt your ACL, right? That left knee is not insured anymore, right? So what I always tell my guys, like, you want to buy insurance early to lock in your body, to take you into a contract year.
Gotcha.
Right? Because you can buy, Lloyd's of London will give you 2 or 3 year guarantee insurance contract, right?
Okay.
That you're not obligated to pay year 2, year 3, but they are obligated to renew you.
Gotcha.
So it's a no-brainer. So you might pay maybe a couple more dollars a year on it. But what I tell my guys that are in year 2 and 3, so I believe, so on the record, I don't think rookies should buy disability insurance because rookies can get cut. First off, if you're a high-priced rookie, so first 3 rounds, you have, I think, 2-year guarantees on your contract, right? So I don't think rookies should buy disability insurance. I don't believe in it. I will tell all my rookies clients, let's make sure you're in line for that second deal. Yeah. Right? Yeah. And as you know, once you make it to the NFL, it doesn't matter if you're a first-round draft pick or undrafted. Exactly. Right? Like, once you're on the field,
none of that matters.
None of that matters, right? So rookies don't need disability, in my opinion, right? Because they can't qualify for loss of value, and they have enough money coming in. Yeah. So, but once you get in a second or third year player, so like, let's use a guy like, who's good in the second or third player?
Second or third recently, or just in the past?
Recently.
Yeah, you'd have
A.J. Brown, the wide receiver of the Titans.
Okay.
We know that he's a sophomore right now. We know that it's an absolute certainty that he's getting $80 to $100 million. Yeah. In the next 3 years. So he's got 2 years left on his deal, possibly a franchise tag. Yeah. Right? Yeah. And then the big money coming in. Yeah. That's a certainty. What we want to do is we want to insure his body. So what I would do with a guy like A.J. Brown is you lock in a 3-year policy on a disability only.
For next year, you're talking about?
Yeah. Okay. And year after that and year after that. And now if he tore his ACL this year, it'd still be insured until year 5. Wow.
And then he would still make the 100 or whatever after he comes back.
If he doesn't, then
he gets that money.
He gets insurance money.
Now, remember you did the math, and I didn't even think about that when we were talking about Dak. Now, how does that work from the math? If he doesn't get that $100 million, what is the math on that? For people that don't know, or young guys that are trying to listen and don't know.
So Dak is a really interesting situation, right? So Dak was and Dak is not my client.
Well, I was talking about AJ when, in relation to what we were talking about.
But Dak actually did get hurt, right? Yeah. So it's interesting, right? And I had a lot of people message me about Dak, right? So Dak is not my client, so I don't know exactly what he have. I have an idea. So he could have 2 kinds of loss of value policies, right? He can have an annual per year loss of value policy, which means that if Dak Prescott doesn't get paid next year what the threshold of the insurance policy is, which is $20 million, I know, for him, right? He makes up the difference. That makes 0 sense for him. Yeah. Because the Cowboys are going to re-franchise tag him, or whatever the second tag is called. Yeah. And it's going to be 37 million, which is more than the 20 million. It means the policy doesn't pay. Yeah. Okay? And the second loss of value is total career earnings for loss of value, right? So is Dak Prescott going to make $100 million over the next 5 years at a $20 million average, right? Which is, in his case, what he would need to have, right? However, you would need mathematically to say, is he going to get to 100 million? Doesn't matter how. He can get 30 million year one, 30 million year two. Now he's at 60 million. And 0 year 3, 4, and 5. Now he's at 60, 100 minus 60. There's a $40 million difference.
So
right?
he would get that.
He would get whatever the insurance policy was, right?
Okay.
If it's 10 million, he get full 10 million.
Now, would that be from the 3 years that you're talking about with AJ the same thing, or would it just
AJ, no. So AJ is just disability only because he's not in a contract year. So the only way you get loss of value is a true contract year. So Dak wasn't a contract year,
He
right?
wasn't a contract year, yes.
So but the thing with the long insurance loss of value is that you have to understand that if it's $100 million in the next 5 years, we're going to have to wait till year 5 and see how much he has earned.
Yeah.
Right?
Before you can actually
collect on it.
Got you. Okay.
Right? So what's interesting is, like, I see the media is like, oh, did Dak have insurance? You know, like, if he had an annual per year loss of value, it won't pay.
Yeah.
It just won't pay.
Yeah.
Right? If he had a career earnings loss of value, then we still won't know for next whatever the threshold was, right? Whether it's 3, 4, 5 years, to get to that point to see if he's going to earn the total amount of that insurance.
Gotcha.
Right?
That makes
and
sense.
a lot of times guys are like, oh, I got hurt, I got to get paid.
No, you don't.
Insurance companies are not in business to
pay
just
you
give out
off.
free money,
Yeah.
right? It's an insurance that to protect against a catastrophe.
Yeah.
Right? Catastrophe is Dad got hurt. It's an ankle injury, by the way.
Yeah.
Not a catastrophic injury.
Yeah.
Right? Like Ryan Shazier was a back injury, catastrophic. I don't think he had an insurance policy because I remember Steelers
They
exercised.
gave him $8 million. So he played. Well, he didn't play the next year, but they left him on the roster,
For that
which was $8 million, and then he got retired. Well, released, whatever it was.
But I think the Steelers did the kind of a nice thing.
They did the right thing.
The right
Okay.
thing,
They
right?
did the right thing. Yeah.
The Dolphins did the right thing with a kid that lost his arm.
Lost his arm, yeah. That's
right?
right.
So, you know, he lost his arm. He wasn't going to make the team that year.
Yeah.
Like, let's call a spade,
Yeah.
right? He lost his arm. They put him on an active roster. They gave him $450,000, basically.
Yeah.
Right? But the fact with that kid, for example, is that, you know, we talked earlier about in football, the guys that need it can't afford insurance, and the ones that can't afford it don't really need it.
Yeah.
Right? Like Dak. Dak doesn't really need insurance. He made $35 million this year.
Yeah.
Right? This kid was a practice squad guy making, you know, $6,000 a week. Lost his arm in a car accident.
Yeah.
That freak incident that we're talking about,
Yeah.
right? Wasn't even playing, by the way, right? Car accident, which I don't think even was his fault.
No, it wasn't. Somebody else like ran him
Hit
off.
him, right?
Yeah.
Like, that's a freak accident.
Yeah.
But $1 million policy for that guy is $10,000.
Yeah.
He can't afford
can't.
$10,000. He just can't. I don't care what people say. I don't care what.
You wouldn't be able to.
Bob at a cubicle, who's an accountant, will say, "Oh, well, yes, he can. He makes $180,000. It's only 10%." No, he can't afford $10,000 if he's on a practice squad.
Making $6,000 a
Six
week.
a week, which is not guaranteed.
Before taxes, though.
Before taxes.
That's like,
Which
what,
is not guaranteed,
3,000
by the
maybe?
way.
Yeah, that's true. Because you be cut the next week, and you only make, for 1 week, you've been there,
Guy
make
might not
6,000.
have $10,000 in his bank account.
If that, you're right about that.
So that's the thing, right? And that's the Dolphins did the right thing by him, but he only got $450,000 still,
Yeah, still.
right?
And then,
Because remember, insurance money is tax free.
yes,
So he got $450 he made the
as
team
a player.
As a player,
So after taxes, it was still,
$200,000.
well, that's crazy. Well, at least they helped him out, which is good. And I also know you gave me this book. And
Yeah, my favorite.
Who Moved My Cheese? You gave it to me as a gift.
Yep.
And when you started telling me about it, it goes along with everything that's going on today, right now.
2020 is Who Moved My Cheese. Our cheese is being moved like
Yeah,
crazy.
2020 has been a weird year. I want you to explain this to me. For the people that might not read this book, I want you to explain it because I think I'm going to
First
read it
off,
tonight.
The Spencer Johnson guy, if he's going to listen,
He better.
I've posted about the book. I have like 20 or 30 copies in my house, and I send it to people.
Uh-huh.
It's an easiest book. I read it once every 6 months. I think, you know, my girlfriend's going to listen. She's going to laugh because I just read it on a flight back. The flight was 3 hours. I read it before the flight landed. Like, you read it in an hour.
Okay.
Right? And it's about the cheese is this metaphorical thing. Everybody has their own cheese, right? For athletes, it's the career of being an athlete, right? The glory, the contract, the fame,
Yeah.
the money.
Yeah.
For me, it might be, you know, my business. For you, might be your dogs or your family, whatever the cheese is, right? Yeah. But there's these two little mice and two little humans, right? And they're in this maze, and every day they wake up, they go get that cheese. Mm-hmm. The cheese, they go home, they slip back, whatever, right? One day they go to the cheese spot, and the cheese is gone. Well, the mice, they're simple-minded, yeah. Right? So they're, you know, wake up, we're onto the cheese, it's not there, no big deal, we'll go find new cheese, right? And they go. Mm-hmm. Humans are a little more difficult, right? We have an attachment to the metaphorical cheese that we have, yeah. Right? And we always want to, you know, if the cheese is gone, we have two ways to react to that, right? Is we can complain about it, mm-hmm. and we can stress about it, and we can hope that the old cheese is going to come back, yeah. Without knowing if it will or will not, yeah. Right? Or, when in this book there's two humans, one is that guy, mm-hmm. Right? Another one we can say, we can wait for the cheese to come back, we can see it's not coming back, we can go find new cheese. And the upside of finding new cheese is the new cheese, more often than not, is actually going to be better than the old cheese. True. Right? Mm-hmm. And in this book, there's two humans. The mice found their cheese fast, right? They're talking about the simplicity of just boom, 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 keep looking for the cheese, right? Yeah. The humans they kept going to the same spot over and over again and not finding the cheese. And the one guy was like, I'm going to find new cheese. Do you want to come with me? The guy's like, no, man, the old cheese is coming back. Yeah. Like, we own this cheese. Like, we deserve this cheese, right? Somebody's going to bring it back to us, yeah. Right? And it never came back, mm-hmm. Right? And the new guy found more cheese, better cheese. He invited the guy to come try the stuff, and he still wouldn't. He wanted the old stuff, right? Wow. And in our conversation, you can tie it up to 2020, which is a lot of changes, right? And yeah. 2020 is all about, I call it evolve or die, yeah. Right? Like, yeah. COVID is going nowhere. Mm-hmm. The masks are going nowhere. Human interaction, as much as it's needed, is being now on limited basis, yeah. Right? We must adapt. And people that are thinking, like, I hear a lot of times people are like, oh, when all this is over. And I'm like, I hate to tell this to you, it's not going to be over. Yeah. Right? And you think one day the government's going to say, you know, COVID is not as dangerous and people are going to stop wearing masks? Yeah, no. It's going to be like I saw in your house, you have the hand sanitizer attached to the wall. Yes. Right? Like, you're so used to hand sanitizing now, right? Mm-hmm. Why would you not want to kill the germs on your hand? Like, yeah. I've never used hand sanitizer before this year, you know, as gross as it is, but like not a lot, right? Yeah. But now I'm used to that, right? Like now I have a hand sanitizer in my car. You adapted. I adapted, right? Yeah. And businesses are, if they don't have masks in their restaurant, like imagine you walk into a restaurant and they're like, where's this hand sanitizer? Like, oh, we don't have it. You're like, what? I'm not coming back here. Yeah. Right? Because we're trained now to the COVID train, right? Mm-hmm. Same thing with athletes, right? Like, their cheese is their career, their everything, and the cheese ends, right? Mm-hmm. There's a lot of guys, you have friends that thinking that they're going to come back. Yeah. And they keep training, right? Yeah. And they refuse to believe that it's over. Mm-hmm. And the ones that we talked earlier about this, right? The ones that acknowledge that it's over the fastest mm-hmm. have now, move on fast. They find new hobbies. They might find better hobbies. Mm-hmm. I saw on Twitter yesterday, I was watching the Monday Night Football game, and somebody tweeted, and Joe Montana retweeted him and said thank you, but they said that it's hard to find that Joe Montana is ridiculously successful venture capitalist fund. And it's like, the guy tweeted is like, it's hard to meet a human mm-hmm. that is so successful at two things, right? Yeah. But Joe Montana probably wasn't a venture capitalist while he's throwing touchdowns for San Francisco, right? No. But he evolved. Yeah. And he found probably better cheese. Yeah. He's probably more happier now. His body doesn't hurt. Exactly. He's probably making as much money, exactly, right? Yeah. And what's important to understand is that, like, we all have to adapt. And when I read the book for the first time, I everything in life is like, my cheese has moved cool, dude. Like, yeah. Your client, you lose a client, new clients. You might get 2 or 3 new clients. Right? Yeah. As long as you wake up and you're positive and do things, move forward. Always move forward, right? I like that. I always say, I don't care about the past. I don't care about the present, and I care about the future. Mm-hmm. Because the past I can't change the past, mm-hmm. right? And if I dwell on the past in my present, then it's going to affect my future. Exactly. Right? And the future, it's very simple. All future is a product of what you did in your present, not in your past. What you're doing today, what I'm doing today, is going to yield the fruits in February, March, April of 2021, right? And selfishly, I've had a very successful 2020, business-wise.
That ain't selfish.
But people say, how? And that's because, this is not because I came up with those, some, weird idea of how to do business in 2020.
Yeah.
No, because I've worked so hard in 2018, 17, 18, 19, that all 2020 is the fruits of my labor. So, and my fruits were so strong that COVID didn't really affect it, right?
Yeah.
And because of, I have a lot of business on social media, right? And I talk a lot on social media. That's my marketing platform, right? But because I've established credibility on that platform, right, in the last 2-3 years, it yielded the fruits of having an audience to listen. And so because I branded myself and created, became a trustworthy advisor, and people trusted my opinion, when people started needing life insurance in 2020, they came to me.
Yeah.
They said, oh, I know Eugene. Eugene's a good dude. I've known Eugene personally, and I trust him, right?
Yeah.
But all of that is because what I did in the past,
Yeah.
right? And if people want something better in the future, things don't turn overnight, right? Very rarely there is a Mark Zuckerbergs of the Facebook, right? And if you want successful 2021, you better do something in 19 and 20.
Yeah.
So you are tomorrow is what the books you read, the people you surround yourself with, right? Everything that you do is what will yield the fruits later on, right? And that's what I'm a big believer in, right? And it's just do stuff today to do tomorrow. And a lot of it happened when I read the book. And I read the book because you always want to resharpen yourself a little bit.
Yeah.
And a lot of times you'll get pissed off or you happen in life, right? And bad things happen and business happens and you lose a client or you lose, maybe, I don't know, maybe your camera crew quits on you. You're like, man, I like my camera guys.
Don't do that.
Right? And or something happens, right? But you're adapt, right?
Yeah.
It's either in 2020 and moving on, it's adapt or die, right? Just evolve. It's all about evolving, right?
Yeah.
And I think that book speaks a lot of it. And I'm a huge fan of that.
From your own words, that was even more important. I can't even say anything else about that. You hit it spot on. So I'm definitely going to read it tonight, and I'm going to have these guys read it right after. But I appreciate you coming on. I appreciate you giving me the knowledge of stuff that I didn't even think about before. I'm really thinking about now, and hopefully I can pass on to other guys that are, like you're saying, in this world of transition where they want to figure it out, but they're so stuck in the past of what used to be great. The fans, the money, the attention, all of that stuff is now gone, and they're just still holding on to it.
It's not coming back.
Remember
we talked about athletes being the
about that.
only profession that you can redo.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
It's literally, I was trying to think what else is you can redo.
There's nothing else.
Nothing.
Yeah, there's
you
nothing
can
else.
literally redo any career except playing sports.
Yeah.
Even a singer, unless you lose your voice, right?
Yeah.
We talk about Justin Timberlake.
Yeah.
He hasn't done an album in 10 years, right?
Do one
He
tomorrow.
can drop an album tomorrow,
Yeah.
and everybody's jamming out to him,
Yeah,
right? And he's
exactly.
making money, right?
Yeah.
Actors can react, right?
Yeah.
Athletes can wake up. You can, if you need money, you need new cheese, right? Like new ways to earn a living.
Yeah.
And things doesn't happen overnight. Maybe this podcast is generating income, right? But that takes time. I think you've been doing your podcast
Yeah, it
now
takes time, yeah.
for years, right?
Yeah.
All this
well,
equipment.
we just started now this year, but all the other stuff that I have, like you were saying, aside from this, the other business that I've had to been set up from the time I stopped playing until now. So this wasn't, everybody's seeing it now. Yeah, it has led me here.
Your failures, your successes
Everything.
led you here, right?
Everything.
And whatever you do later on in life, something that you might have a guy come in on a podcast, right? Then you guys are gonna vibe and maybe start a crazy business together, right? And this business is selling for millions, right? And one day somebody's like, "How did you become so successful?" You're like, "Well, I played football. That led me to one business. Then it led me to the podcast. Then it led me to this guy I met, Bob, and me and Bob started this business together, right?" Bob didn't just fall into your lap.
Yeah.
It was a fruit of what you did in the past.
Exactly.
And that's all it is, man. It's
Yeah.
like if you do shit like that's you do good stuff for today. That means statistically, tomorrow and day after tomorrow will be good. It's
Exactly.
like if you plant the tree and you water it, the fruits are gonna come. It's just inevitable, right?
Yeah.
Like it's just, you know, you do things, you read books, you be around good people, you try to get better in business, personal, mentally, physically, spiritually, right? And I don't worry. There's a saying, it's like worrying is like a rocking chair. It gives you something to do, but gives you nowhere.
Exactly.
I don't worry. Like I came from Russia with nothing. Like
You don't need to worry.
like what's
You
the worst?
came
Like
up,
we come back, you know.
You're not going back.
No, but what's the worst that could happen, right?
Yeah.
Like people always afraid of what's the worst, right?
Yeah.
I always like the beautiful apartment I have, the cars, the things, like it's all.
But why even put that in your mind of stuff that it's not going to happen.
It's not
but
gonna
why
happen.
keep worrying and put that in your mind every
A
single
lot
day?
of people think about that.
Because you just end up bringing that to fruition, and then you're just like, oh, well, I knew it was going to happen. Instead of thinking positively and think, well, this is what I'm going to do. Like when you start, you're like, this is how it's going to be. Even though it's not going on right now, I know I'm going to have the clients. I know I'm going to have the people come and ask me, and you stuck with it. And now you see where it's gotten you, and everybody's, Eugene, I need to call Eugene. Oh, let me go on Instagram. Let me look for Eugene. So definitely, man, I appreciate you coming on. I appreciate the knowledge, man, and I'm happy to see where you've been from 2010 to 2020,
Crazy
man.
growth. That's crazy.
It is. It's funny how
And
life is.
It's awesome to see you do. You're doing great.
Oh, it's like what you said. It was the stuff that I knew when I was playing football to have a sense of what I wanted to do when I got out the game. So when I got out of the game, I was able to close that one part of my life. When I got released from Dallas, I was like, okay, this is it.
How long did you take you to, like a year at least? Or you're like, I'm done?
It took, well, maybe a year. And it was the last workout that I had. And it was just, by that time in my mind, I knew I wanted to spend time with my son. I wanted to spend more time with my family. I wanted to have a life outside of football. And it became easy for me to just say, you know what, I'm not doing any more workouts. If I'm going to do a workout, it has to be that team's going to sign me then and there. But I'm not going anywhere to do workouts. I'm not just going just so you can see me run around. You've had 8 years to see what I can do. If you don't believe I can still do it, then don't even bother bringing me.
But isn't it important that fact that you set up yourself financially over 8 years to make that decision, right? That's what we're talking about, right?
Yeah.
Like if you need it, if you blew the money, right?
Then I
you
would
would've
probably
taken
still be
workouts.
trying to play.
You'd
Yeah,
play in Canada, right?
Yeah, I probably would have. Yeah.
And a lot of guys, what happens is they need the money.
Yeah.
Right? They didn't save enough.
Yeah.
And they didn't meet enough people for the network, right? It's always
Yeah.
the network, right? There's an article, I'm not trying to veer off, but there's an article I read that I share a lot. And it was written by, remember Sean Springs, the corner?
Yeah, he played for
Redskins.
Yeah.
He wrote an article, and if I find it, I'll email it to you. But a long time ago I read it, and he said in there that while he was playing, he said yes to all the charity events, all the networking events, all free everywhere that he can go and get access to people that a normal 20-year-old kid from where he was from wouldn't get access to.
Yeah.
And it's really interesting because he talks about that the moment you stop playing, those invites stop.
Yeah, no, almost instantly.
Immediately, because they want Nolan Carroll. They don't want Nolan Carroll.
The former player.
They
want the current player.
Nolan Carroll, the Miami Dolphins corner.
Yeah,
Right?
yeah.
Now your fans can talk about or golf with you or whatever, right?
Yeah.
But what happens is you create a network at those events. And I always tell all my young guys, like, you want a successful post-sport career, network.
Yeah.
Go and meet those wealthy people
Even
that
if
can
you don't
open
want to.
doors.
Even if you don't want to.
Because they'll open doors for you. They're the ones that's going to hire you later. They're the one that are going to do business with you later. They're the ones that are going to open up your next 30, 40 years of your life. And if you don't meet them now, sadly,
You probably never meet him.
you're not going to meet them after you finish playing, right? And I was reading that article, and it's so true. And he's very successful. He does something. He does business. He's successful now, right?
Well, he has the helmets. You know,
Yes.
he's the impact inside
That's
the
what it
helmets.
was, right.
He does that now, and he's getting the NFL's paying him crazy money for that.
But he said he learned. That's what it was. He's talking about his business, and he was interviewed, and he's talking about that everything that he does now was taught because he kept going and meeting people that he wouldn't have access to prior.
Yeah.
So he's like, you want to sit down with, the owners, and you won those meetings. You don't want to go to live and hang out with the homies from back when,
Yeah,
right?
Yeah.
You want to go to dinner with the owner.
Yeah.
Or the big sponsors, right?
Goes to
or
what
the
you were
executive,
saying.
right?
What you're
Because
saying, live in
building.
the past or the present to set you
Versus
up for
the
the
past.
future instead of going in the past and
Yeah.
hanging out and doing that stuff. So it's
A lot of times, like, oh, my people are so important to you.
if they're not bringing value, it makes no sense to really have them hang around because they're just leeching off you. They're taking the value away from you.
Exactly. And then that article, I gotta find it. I just thought about it. It's so important because he talks about talks access, right?
Yeah.
Being a professional athlete gives you access that I didn't have, right? Like I'm 37 now, right? And I'm getting where I want to be, but I didn't have access that I have now at 22, 23, 25. You know, I was just a young kid trying to figure it out, right? I didn't come from a wealthy family, so my parents didn't have the network, right? My friends didn't have the network. I went to school in Ohio, right? When I came here, I didn't know the people that control Florida, the people that run Florida, the people that make things move in Florida, right? And over time, being successful allowed me to get into those doors. And now I'm getting those doors, right? I'm getting into the business partnerships and meetings with people that, it's funny because being a president opens it for me. Literally having a title of a president opens the door, because I'm smart. I know that if I'm ever put in a situation to wow somebody, I can do it, right? But you got to be put in that position, right? And I didn't have that before, right? And athletes have that access early on in their lives. And they have to. That's one of the biggest things that you can do is go to that boring golf outing, that boring charity event, that boring fundraiser, because people that you want to meet after sports are there. They're not at Live. They're just not, right? They're not at a nightclub. They're not sitting next to your couch smoking weed with you, right? Like, they're those events, and that's where you want to be, because one person can change your life. And that's, honestly, that's kind of, we probably should finish on, but like one person, that one contact can change everything.
That's true.
Right? And
well, guys got to look at it that way, as an investment when you go to these things, and that's
where they got to listen to podcasts like yours.
Well, shoot, hopefully this word gets out, but it's definitely been a pleasure, and hopefully anybody that hears this, you can gain the information that you guys got from Eugene, because I think out of each week they get better and better, and I think this is one that pertains to everybody. And I think it's one of those things where, just with everything that's going on in the world and stuff that might happen 2020 and beyond, 2021 and beyond, we need to prepare ourselves. We need to have some type of action plan. Don't worry about if it works or it won't. Just make sure you get yourself right now, so then when it does happen, you're prepared for it and you don't have to continue to worry about it. So I definitely thank you for coming on, man, and giving me the info and giving me the book. My little present to you is this mug.
Oh, that's mine?
It's rare. People don't just get this. You come on the show and you get it, man.
I like it. I have to start coming maybe one more time so I get a matching set.
I'll get you another one if you come on, man. So definitely, I appreciate it, as always.
No, I appreciate it, man.
No
Thank
problem.
you for having me.
No problem, bro.
Appreciate it.
Thank you, man.